Howdy out there, folks. Today we're going to be looking at Hoosiers, a 1987 film starring Gene Hackman and Dennis Hopper. And most notably, Dennis Hopper was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and I believe Jerry Goldsmith's score was also nominated that year for an Oscar for Best Original Score. Now, the movie is an interesting mixed bag for me. I feel like Gene Hackman and Dennis Hopper are the obvious highlights. But I'll be honest, the story leaves a little to be desired because I feel as though you are introduced to this character played by Gene Hackman, who apparently hit some player of his and was banned from NCAA basketball, only to find himself now getting a job as a high school coach. And it seems like the moral of the story is you can be a jerk and get a great kid to come on your team and turn an otherwise mediocre team into a championship contender. I realize that's an oversimplification, but I feel like that, along with Barbara Hershey's role, which was really all over the place, quite frankly, and I fault namely the writing and Barbara Hershey for that matter, because I feel like they never really knew what she was supposed to be. Was she going to be a love interest? Was she going to be an antagonist? And I didn't buy her transition from someone who was just straight out of the gate sort of rude and mean and cold to him to all of a sudden she's a love interest. I didn't buy it. But despite all that, there's no denying that the film has a nice pacing and certainly provides a sort of rousing finale that is enjoyable to watch. And again, Dennis Hopper's performance as the town drunkard is just terrific. That was the year that he came out after basically being banished from Hollywood after some really bad behavior, and in 1 year saw his role in Hollywood completely restored, having done Hoosiers, The River's Edge, and Blue Velvet all within the same year. And I think his performance alone makes the film worth a watch. And I think Gene Hackman is great, although I would just say that the character's not necessarily a heroic one. I mean, yes, he's complicated, and I think you could give him some slack in that regard, but I'm just not sure that rooting for a guy that hit one of his players and, has this sort of old school 4 passes approach that, while I can understand, trying to integrate the team and get them thinking along the lines of a team as opposed to just one player. But then how do they end up getting the championship? The best player finally comes back on the team and basically puts the rest of his players, his other team members, on his back, and he gets them to the championship game and wins the championship. It's all over the place, quite frankly, despite the fact that, again, I think Gene Hackman, he's just always watchable. He's great. But I wouldn't call his character necessarily a heroic one. I think he's definitely a person with some continued issues, even at the end of the film. Now, if they had focused more on sort of the backstory of him and gotten rid of the Barbara Hershey character, or at least, I think the town as a whole stood in for that sort of antagonistic element, I think it could have been better. I also think they could have focused more on maybe Jimmy Chitwood's character, and then allowed him to be the sort of, a motivating factor for the film. But instead, it seemed like it needed another rewrite or two, a polish, as it were, to fix those things in the writing process, and they never did. So I think in terms of a sports movie that sort of makes you feel good, I would give it a B, largely due to Hackman and Dennis Hopper's performances. But as a story, I think it's more like a C-. I really think it had issues that never really were resolved by the time it was executed. Now, having said all that, as you can see, it's on my shelf, and it's largely due to the fact that I am a basketball fan. It's probably the only sport that I really follow, and I think it's definitely a part of the annals of those basketball films. And Gene Hackman and Dennis Hopper, for me at least, make it watchable. I really enjoy their performances, and I think even Jerry Goldsmith's score is terrific, despite it sounding a little dated and very 80s synthesized, which is a little incongruous with the fact that the film takes place in the early 50s. So that's probably just a critique I'm willing to overlook because I love Jerry Goldsmith. So on that note, please take care, everyone. I hope all is well, and until that next time, bye.